Since 1934, Iowa's farmers have turned to the Iowa Farm Bureau spokesman as their trusted news source. Now, the Spokesman Speaks. Listen in and hear from leading experts on topics important to farmers and agriculture. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to our August 22nd edition of the Spokesman Speaks podcast. I'm Andrew Wheeler, and in today's episode, you'll meet Kelly Foss, who's the new executive director of the Iowa Agriculture Literacy Foundation, an organization that serves as a central resource for educators and volunteers who want to teach Iowa students about agriculture. The school year's just getting started, and there are plenty of ways for you to boost ag literacy in your own local school district. So be sure to stick around for our conversation with Kelly. But before we get to Kelly, let's dive into the results of a recent survey Iowa Farm Bureau conducted with the Harris Poll. It's called the Iowa Farm Bureau Food and Farm Index, and it's an annual survey that explores the motivations and purchasing intentions of Iowa's grocery shoppers. For that, I'll bring on my colleague, Zach Bader. Hey, Zach, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here, Andrew.
Zach and I have worked closely with Harris Poll staffers on the development and analysis of this survey, and the Iowa Farm Bureau has been conducting this survey for the past 9 years along with the Harris Poll. Zach, what else would you add to help our listeners understand how the Food and Farm Index works?
Yeah, so it's a scientific online poll that we've been doing with the Harris Poll for the last 9 years, and we're really just trying to understand what motivates Iowa grocery shoppers and who they trust. So we're only talking to Iowans between the ages of 20 and 60 with a primary or shared role in their household's grocery shopping. And we're asking things like, does your household consume meat, milk, and eggs? How often are you doing that? Do you consider those products to be healthy? What factors are driving your grocery purchases? What are you looking for on food labels? Who do you trust for food safety and nutrition information? Do you trust farmers? Do you have confidence in how they're caring for their animals and the environment? And a whole bunch more.
Of course, questions like those lead to some really fascinating answers. You know, Zach, for me, one of the biggest takeaways and something that was extremely encouraging was the trust and support that Iowans have in Iowa agriculture and Iowa farmers. As somebody that works in agriculture and is really passionate about Iowa agriculture, I think it's just great to see that support. We saw that when consumers learn more about conservation practices and what farmers are doing to take on environmental challenges, they have more trust and confidence in those practices and feel that we're really making progress. When it comes to food, when you're sharing the nutritional value and health benefits, we saw that Iowa consumers are more likely to consume those foods. When they hear about the nutritional value or health benefits of real animal proteins, there was even more support, and when it comes to the food products, a higher likelihood to purchase. So I think the takeaway there is the more farmers and people involved in agriculture can do to share with consumers the real positives in our industry, the more trust that they place in it. Very encouraging there. And then another interesting takeaway was the growing trend in Iowans wanting to shop at local meat lockers. I think there's really something encouraging there, and it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And what about you, Zach? What caught your eye?
Yeah, so building off of some of what you said there, Andrew, and adding in some of the data here, of course, we've conducted this survey for the last 9 years, and price has always been important. But I don't recall ever seeing more importance placed on price than we saw in this survey. Not only is price now the number one factor driving meat and milk purchases, but 79% of Iowa grocery shoppers now say that they're concerned about government regulation that increases food costs. And that's actually up from 62% in last year's poll. So that factor, government regulation that increases food costs, went from the sixth most concerning aspect of food production in 2021 to the most concerning aspect of food production in 2022. We also found that 96% of Iowa households consume meat at least weekly, and 94% are consuming dairy at least weekly. 9 in 10 Iowa grocery shoppers consider meat and dairy to be healthy. And this is building on something that you said earlier, Andrew. More than 2/3 of shoppers say that they're likely to consume more meat and dairy after they learn about the unique nutrition that's in those products. So, for example, when they learn that meat provides the majority of zinc in their diets and that zinc actually helps your immune system function, or when they learn that iron helps your body use oxygen and your body actually absorbs iron from meat more easily than it absorbs iron from plant-based foods, or when they learn about vitamin B12, which is unique to meat, milk, and eggs, and that's good for brain development and your nervous system, and of course when they learn about the value of complete high-quality protein. Those are all things that help move the needle for them. So there's that theme again, right? What we've alluded to a couple of times already. The more they know, the more likely they are to consume it. And interestingly, we added a new question to this year's poll about ethanol, and we're seeing the same type of results. The more they know, the more likely they are to consume it. So 71% of grocery shoppers say they're likely to increase their consumption of ethanol after learning that corn-based ethanol reduces greenhouse gas emissions by roughly 40 to 50%. And finally, again, alluding to what you did earlier, trust in farmers remains high. We see that year after year, and this year, 92% said that they trust Iowa's farmers, with 84% confident that farmers are caring for their animals and 80% confident that farmers are caring for the environment.
You're right, Zach. That's definitely a theme there. The more they know, the more likely they are to consume meat and milk. And on the fuel side, the more likely they are to use ethanol. And that's definitely good news for our farmers listening in, and I think it should help instill some confidence that farmers are a trusted source for people who have questions about what's grown and raised here in Iowa. Zach, thanks again for taking the time and hopping on the podcast.
Happy to do it. Thanks for having me.
Now, we covered a lot of ground there, and there's a lot more to learn from the Iowa Farm Bureau Food and Farm Index survey. So if you'd like to see more, head down to the notes for this podcast episode and click the link there after you're done listening here. Next up is Kelly Foss, who was named Executive Director of the Iowa Agriculture Literacy Foundation this spring after 23 years as the Director of the Des Moines Farmers Market. With the Iowa State Fair in our rearview mirror, I think we're all turning our attention to the new school year and opportunities to help our students understand just how important agriculture is. For more on that, here's Spokesman Editor Tom Block with Kelly Foss.
We are here with Kelly Foss of the Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation. Kelly, thanks for joining me. Let's start with a little background on the foundation. When was it formed? What organizations are involved in it? And what's the organization's overall mission?
Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation was formed in 2014 and kind of organized as a collaboration project by Iowa commodity groups and really agribusinesses that they saw a need to work together. They really wanted to address ag literacy and ag education throughout Iowa. Iowa Farm Bureau is one of our largest supporters, along with Iowa corn growers and Iowa soybean, Iowa beef, Iowa pork, all the commodities like Iowa Turkey Federation, as well as Growmark, Corteva, and so many others. Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation was kind of created for these organizations to work collaboratively. I like to say using one statewide message with one voice, and really to help advance a shared vision of strong agriculture economy so that we're all speaking out of the same voice when we're trying to talk about ag and education. We're kind of all headed in the same direction, and that's what IALF has really helped to do. We really kind of have a what I like to say is a fancy mission statement with fancy words, but really in a nutshell, our overall goal is to kind of amplify the knowledge and awareness of today's agriculture and really the importance among all Iowans, really. But our focus is really students K through 12. At the end of the day, teachers have so much going on, and they've had so much education, but often sometimes they don't have the science education or even the agriculture background for us to expect them to be able to teach agriculture. So really to simplify what we do in kind of a nutshell as well is just we really help educators not just teach agriculture, but we help them learn agriculture and really help them kind of see the big picture, the role of agriculture's relationship to food and fiber, energy, and the environment. And really, ag literacy is just one piece of the entire spectrum of ag education. really kind of encompasses ag awareness, ag education, and really overall ag advocacy, which kind of brings in all of our partners and supporters across the state. We're just all advocating agriculture and want to share that message.
You joined the Ag Literacy Foundation as executive director a few months ago. Tell us what attracted you to the position and what you've been doing since coming on board.
I was the director for the Downtown Farmers Market in downtown Des Moines for 23 years. And I worked and partnered with farmers and producers from across the state, over 300 throughout the years. And the market really represented about 50 counties across Iowa. So it was statewide, similar to what I'm working on now. And many of the programs that I produced in that role really based on ag education and helping people to connect to Iowa farmers and helping people to connect to the food that they feed their families. So it was just a perfect segue for me to really focus on ag education. And I'm in my third month here at Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation, and every day I'm really blown away by the impact being made across the state and just what a small organization like IOF can do in terms of ag efforts and initiatives. And you said, what have I been doing? Really, I've been all ears. During my what I'll call initiation phase, I've really been engaged in kind of a listening tour, really, because I just want to learn kind of put my finger on the pulse of ag education and what others' perspective is and what their perceptions are of ag education across the state. And it's really been quite an inspiration and also very helpful to connect with hundreds of professionals in the ag community. I've met with many of our close partners and stakeholders from across the state. I guess I'm just, really looking ahead to continue to work with these organizations to explore their current ag education initiatives and their goals and work with them to create even more opportunities to engage with students and teachers all across Iowa.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you've been busy. You've had a lot on your plate here these past 3 months. With another school year coming up right around the corner now, what are some of the resources the foundation has available for teachers?
We produce so many resources for teachers and students, and I like to emphasize that these resources are free for teachers to utilize and Ag in the Class education coordinators. I was at a presentation last week, and it's kind of something we forget to share, but these resources are free, and there's so many. I couldn't possibly cover all of them in our time, but as a starting point, we've created over 250 ag-related lessons that are available on our website, really helping teachers emphasize energy and biofuels, soybeans, corn, pork, beef, water quality, and these lessons are, I guess, what we can call sort of ready to go. It's like the teachers are able to just pull a kit off the shelf, and it saves them so much time in their curriculum and planning, and that just really helps encourage them to utilize these ag plans and incorporate ag learning. They get to spend more time with their students. Additionally, we have this great series of what we call My Family Farm books. And so it's really helping us to highlight at a third grade reading level commodities across the state. So there's these really great publications. One of them, for example, My Family's Apple Farm, another one, My Family's Beef Farm, My Family's Pig Farm, and it goes on. We have about 8 of them. And teachers can order these books from us, and they really help teachers to incorporate commodities and how ag is important. Even at a third grade level, kids can really, see the importance of these commodities in their own life. And the My Family Farm series has just proven to be very popular, and teachers love it because we've incorporated lesson plans with these books. So quizzes for the students and everything at a third grade level that a teacher would need to incorporate into their classrooms. A different resource that we've created is a publication that we named Iowa Ag Today. It's kind of like a magazine type of publication where we incorporate ag-themed stories and really real-life connections to farming and food and fuel that kids might see across the state of Iowa. We have 2 different editions. We have an elementary edition and a middle school edition, and all of these are really helpful for the teachers because they're aligned to social studies and science and really the classes that they're teaching every day, and really aligned to what we call our 21st century skill standards. That is very helpful for teachers, but also required for teachers in order to bring these resources into their classrooms. again, also includes student assessment, teachers' guides, and worksheets. And I think they're just really great ways for teachers to pull something off the shelf. It's all created. They're saving a lot of time, which allows them to spend more time teaching in the classroom.
Well, that's great. That's what we want our teachers to do. So, and you talked about making ag fit these standards. How does agriculture fit into state and national school curriculum standards?
Yeah, all of our lessons and resources are aligned to social studies and science and the 21st skill standards. Teachers really need this to be able to utilize these resources in their classroom. For a teacher to use something in a classroom, you can't just say, oh, this would be really cute for kids to learn. It actually needs to be aligned. And that's what our Ag Literacy Foundation really focuses on. We have a really great team, small but mighty, I like to say. Our program manager was a science teacher for 6 years, and she has her master's in teaching. And then we have another program coordinator who also has a background in education, has been with us for 6 years. And their main focus is to make sure that all of our resources kind of fit into state and national school curriculum standards. For example, each of our lesson plans, as well as our publications, such as our Iowa Ag Today magazine, it includes built-in tools for teachers like the teacher assessment and teacher guide worksheets. And it's basically handing over a kit to teachers to, again, save them time and encourage them to utilize these. If we're not creating this curriculum, someone else will, or else they'll have to. And we really want them to be encouraged to use these ag-related lessons. And, ag learning can be hands-on. And with ag lessons, teachers can really help students see and relate to agriculture. And at the end of the day, everyone eats. So if we're learning about food, it's always a connection to agriculture.
You mentioned a little earlier about the variety of materials you have, but is there a specific target grade level for these programs, or do you have materials for students of all ages?
Many of our materials are really focused on kindergarten through 6th grade, but we have programs and resources for all students K through 12. And we are really focusing and working to increase our high school resources, but many of the resources we have can be, and the lesson plans that we have can be retooled to accommodate a high school level. So I would say we have materials for all grades.
Great. And what kind of feedback is there from teachers and volunteers who've worked with the Literacy Foundation? I'm sure there's some success stories out there.
Absolutely. Again, I'm just a few months into this, but during our summer professional development teacher workshops, teachers just get really excited to share how their students continue to talk about their ag learning experiences even after they've left the classroom. The teachers just really continue to appreciate how Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation, the materials are useful and just quick to implement into their curriculum. We make it easy and they let us know that it's helpful. A fun success story, earlier this summer I was talking to a teacher and also an Ag in the Class coordinator. They each had incorporated the chick hatching program into their classroom with guidance from some of our resources from Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation. And, at the end of the day, I feel like it's one thing to read about how chicks hatch or even watch a video online. But when these teachers can have live chick hatching program in their classroom, it's just so exciting and memorable for students that they can really incorporate hands-on learning, and it's a way for teachers to incorporate many ag lessons into their science classes, their math classes, social studies, and even their nutrition classes, as just an example.
And you mentioned in there a little bit about Ag in the Classroom. That's a very important program to a lot of county farm bureaus. In addition to working with educators, you do a lot of work with the Ag in the Classroom folks. What are some of the resources available for county farm bureaus to tap into?
Yeah, we can provide pretty much all of our resources that we have available for teachers. We have available for our Ag in the Class coordinators from across the state, and we work with them pretty much on a daily basis. They have access to our lending library and the My Family Farm commodity books and the Iowa Ag Today publications and all of our 250 ag lessons that are available on our website. And oftentimes what we have learned is that some of these ag lessons are really, they could be 2 or 3 week lessons for teachers. And what we're finding here is that our Ag in the Class coordinators really need us to retool them. And so that's something that we're working on this year is we're taking some of these lessons that are kind of off-the-shelf lesson plans for agriculture. We're retooling them for our Ag in the Class coordinators to make them shorter. They could go into a classroom and have 30 minutes to teach a specific lesson, whereas when teachers utilize it, it might be a 3 or 4 day or 3 or 4 week lesson. So that's something that we're really trying to help our Ag in the Class coordinators. We also host a monthly, what we call a coffee talk, and essentially it's a virtual meeting where we invite Ag in the Class coordinators to discuss all of our resources, and it just gives us an opportunity to provide more in-depth kind of one-on-one training and assistance with any of our Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation resources that we have online. In November, we're hosting a learning conference. That's going to be November 17th. All the Ag in the Class coordinators from across the state are invited to join us here in West Des Moines for a one-day workshop, and we'll highlight all the Literacy Foundation's resources and really kind of dive into a hands-on lesson and let them ask questions and just really connect with a lot of our resources to make sure that there's kind of a full understanding of what we have available and help them utilize the resources that we have.
Teachers aren't just teaching, they're also learning and continuing education, and the Literacy Foundation also has professional development workshops and grant opportunities for teachers. Tell us about those.
One of our marquee programs, as a matter of fact, is our Teacher Professional Development Workshop Series. Each summer, while teachers are on break, we did think they get a summer break, but they're actually working. They're doing professional development, and we host between 6 and 12 different workshops in communities across Iowa. Each summer, we've had approximately 200 teachers participate in these professional development programs. For example, this summer, we held them in Oskaloosa and Latimer. We had one in Mount Pleasant and in Malvern, Hiawatha and Avoca, and even Eldridge. These programs just are a really helpful way for us to teach teachers to help them learn to integrate ag and ag lessons into their classroom subjects, really subjects that they're already teaching. We're helping them incorporate it into their math and their science and their social studies and all the classes that they're already teaching. These workshops are traditionally, we hold a 2-day workshop, and we're able to engage teachers with hands-on, face-to-face meetings with farmers. We take them out to their farms. We do agribusiness tours and really help them learn firsthand and give them opportunities to meet farmers, but not only farmers, but people in ag-related careers across the state. And this is offering an opportunity for teachers to learn more about ag careers so they can share with their students. As we're learning about agriculture, we know not everybody in agriculture is a farmer, but there are so many related careers that we want our teachers to be talking about. Also, with the 2-day professional development sessions, it's a lot of fun, but it's not just fun because teachers are there to earn their professional development and sometimes graduate level credits that teachers can earn by participating to help them keep their license to teach in Iowa. You know, we really want to support ag learning, and we always ask, how can we support more? We want more, always. And so we provide a teacher supplement grant for teachers who want to expand their ag-related lessons in their classroom. With support from all of our partners and sponsors, we're able to provide a grant program where we can help teachers integrate more ag into their classroom. And sometimes this is their regular classroom, and sometimes this is an after-school program. This teacher supplement grant is really designed to initiate kind of new projects for teachers. And maybe it's helping them to expand on existing projects that they're doing in their classrooms. We have awards up to $250 that teachers can apply through Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation. It helps to fund all the innovative and ag-based lessons and activities that teachers want to bring into their classroom, different resources and maybe even guest speakers or field trips. So, for example, we have this My Family Farm apple orchard book that highlights a 3rd grader who lives on an apple farm in Iowa. And so maybe a teacher would want to read that book with her classroom and then potentially take a field trip to an apple orchard. This $250 teacher supplement grant can really help with any of the expenses for that type of field trip. And another example that we've had as well is if a teacher wants to incorporate the chick hatch program into their classroom, that project in itself can be quite expensive with all of the supplies. They could easily apply for the teacher supplement grant through Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation and earn themselves $250 to help supplement and pay for the chick hatching supplies and kits that they would need to run that program in their classroom. This year, we offered the grants to over 213 teachers, and we intend to continue this program, so there are opportunities for next year as well.
And you also have a program recognizing outstanding teachers in the classroom. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. With so much to learn and teach about agriculture, we really want to recognize all the hard work from teachers. And we want to honor this work and recognize teachers who learn to integrate agriculture. So we created this Excellence in Teaching About Agriculture Award. And so Iowa teachers can nominate themselves, or they can nominate a friend who they think is doing a really stellar job in incorporating ag lessons and curriculum into their classrooms. They can submit this to Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation. You can go to our website and find all the information about when to apply and how to apply. But important to note is that the winner receives $500 to incorporate more agriculture lessons into their classroom. And they also win up to $1,000 paid for a trip to attend the National Ag in the Classroom Conference. This year, that conference took place in Saratoga Springs, New York, so it was a beautiful location. And next year, the conference will take place in Orlando, Florida. So it's just a fun way for teachers who win this to meet other teachers across the country who want to incorporate agriculture lessons into their classroom and get some ideas and tips and just kind of lifelong learning experience for teachers to attend this type of conference.
Great. As you talked about, you've got a ton of things going on, more than we can cover in a 20-minute podcast. How can people find out more about the Ag Literacy Foundation activities?
Yeah, I think number one, I would definitely say our website, iowaagliteracy.org. So many resources and opportunity to sign up for our newsletter. But also, social media has been a very integral way for us to connect with students and teachers across the state. We typically post about 5 to 10 times a week on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on subjects like the teacher professional development workshops, make sure people know about them, all of our resources, and just a really great way for us to connect with Ag in the Class coordinators and all the programming that is available to them. We also publish a biweekly blog, and so people can connect with our blog. We often write about agriculture careers, sometimes specialty agriculture, sometimes conservation efforts, but it's always revolving around agriculture.
More than 250 ready-made ag-related lessons for teachers to use, the My Family Farm book series, the Iowa Ag Today magazine series, professional development and grant opportunities for teachers, and so much more. If you have a passion for teaching students about agriculture, you really need to connect with Kelly and the Iowa Agriculture Literacy Foundation. To get started, head out to iowaagliteracy.org. That's it for this episode of the Spokesman Speaks podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and that you'll join us for our next one on September 5th. Thank you for doing the work that inspires everything we do here at the Iowa Farm Bureau, and thanks for listening to the Spokesman Speaks.
Thank you for listening to the Spokesman Speaks, a podcast by Iowa Farm Bureau. Check out more podcast episodes at iowafarmbureau.com/podcast. You can also find and subscribe to the Spokesman Speaks podcast in the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and other popular podcast apps. We appreciate your ratings and reviews, and we welcome you to email us your feedback at podcast@ifbf.org.